Good afternoon, dear students. The left out portion in the module 4 is causes, effects, and prevention measures for mercury and lead. So we'll continue with that. So the mercury sources of mercury. So the one of the sources of mercury is effluent from chloroalkali industries and the pesticide industries and chemical industries, etc. And the most toxic of all mercury compounds are the dimethyl mercury and dimethyl mercury ions. So, the mercury, majority of the sources of mercury is the chloroalkali industries and pesticide industries and even the chemical industries. And the most toxic of all mercury compounds is these two, dimethyl mercury as well as dimethyl mercury ions. Now, when you look into the ill effects of mercury, mercury is very difficult to remove once it is forms dimethyl mercury ions in the environment. Now, in the mercury poisoning causes first the kidney damage and exhibits the symptoms like numbness in the limbs and muscles and blurred visions and leading to blindness. And mercury also causes an emotional disturbances, and it also damages the brain and the nervous system and leading to paralysis. And the toxicity of mercury depends very much on its state. So, as I said, the mercury in its pure state is less harmful than the mercury when it forms dimethyl and dimethyl mercury ions. The mercury vapor is very dangerous because it causes an irritation and destruction of lung tissues, and it will be commonly used in household thermometers and laboratories. And the mercury is in the liquid metal, and the spillage occurs very fast. And control measures. So control measures is that it is being found that certain bacteria and microorganism metabolizes this mercury. The mercury is very less reactive amongst the metals which is there in the periodic table, and the only a few of the bacteria and microorganism metabolizes first mercury to Hg2 plus state ions, and eventually it will convert into methyl mercury and dimethyl mercury and so on. And these dimethyl and methyl mercuries have high solubility in water. So, due to its high solubility, usually the fish takes this bacteria and the methyl mercury compound and slowly concentrate on its fatty tissues of their bodies. So it enters into fish, then into human beings. It uses to remove this mercury to synthesize some of the aluminum oxide nanoparticles, so the mimicking the coral structures. So dimethyl mercury and methyl mercury are said to be in the form of a coral type of structures. So these coral structures will be mimicked with the help of the well-known aluminum oxide nanoparticles. And these oxides of nanoparticles are capable of absorbing heavy metals toxins like methyl mercury and methyl mercury ions, even in the Hg2 plus very effectively, due to its high surface to volume ratio and the quality of the surface. So corals will have a high surface ratio with respect to their volumes, and it can effectively absorb the methyl mercury and mercury ions, and hence effectively can prevent the mercury from the environment. Now, the new technique also been used in nanotechnology to create these synthetic corals, which may help in cleaning mercury. So, some of the, as I said, some of the oxides of aluminum, which is mimicking the coral structures of the mercury, and which can effectively absorb the uh, mercury compounds and clean the environment. First is to minimize the usage of coal power because this generates a lot of mercury and sends mercury into the atmosphere, and shifting to cleaner energy sources. So reducing the coal is also one of the preventing mercury into the atmosphere. Reducing small scale artisanal gold mining, small scale gold mining with the proper treatment of industry mercury waste, and treatment should be done before the industrial effluents released into the water, especially with regard to mercury and lead. And implementation of policies are sound approaches to reduce mercury emission for a long-term and large-scale plan, and the proper disposal of mercury containing items. So this is also one of the control measures, the proper disposal of mercury containing items such as medicinal packing materials and thermometers, and the usage of mercury free bulbs. So previously mercury containing bulbs used to come. Now the using this bulb is hazardous to the environment because the disposal method is very difficult, and even avoiding the mercury. So the lead. So lead is a very important constituent, but it is very difficult to remove as like the mercury from the environment. Now the sources. The sources of lead is widely used in storage batteries. So electric storage battery from industries, petroleum industries, ceramic industries, electric cable installation, paint industries, and plastic industries, pesticide industries, pipe manufacturing units, etc. And metal processing industries like the iron and steel foundries will use a lot of lead in the form of an oxide, lead oxide, and the copper smelters and industrial and commercial and even institutional boiler gas manufacturers, cement manufacturers, they are all will use the lead in different forms. So sources of lead, which includes these uh, industries. Now the ill effects of lead. Lead can cause a severe damage to the brain and kidney. So, as like the mercury, lead is also toxic to brain and mercury. Brain and kidney, and ultimately, it will cause paralysis and leading to death. So, by mimicking calcium and lead can cross over the brain blood-brain barrier. So, by mimicking some of the calcium and lead, which can stop the interference of lead in the blood-brain barrier. So lead especially causes damage to the blood-brain barrier. Instead of calcium, it will mimic the calcium structure, and hence destroys the blood-brain barrier. So it degrades the myelin sheets of neurons. So that is the first step of the lead interference into the blood-brain barrier. And cumulative poisoning causes causing loss of an appetite. So a lot of lead poisoning causes a loss of appetite and constipation of abdominal pain. So constipation of the abdominal pain and mental retardations, nervous disorders, and leading to brain damage. So control measures. When you look into the control measures, lead is very difficult to remove from the environment in any form. So this includes individual efforts such as removing lead-containing items from the home, workplace efforts such as improved ventilations and monitoring, and there is something like nationwide policies and laws that can ban lead-containing products such as paints, lead-containing paints, avoiding lead-containing paints, and gasoline fractions. And previously, lead is, from the fuel chapter, lead is used as an antioxidant, anti-knocking agents in gasoline fractions. Now, the lead is banned because It is carcinogenic to the environment. So avoiding that, reduce allowable levels in water or the soil. So as far as possible to reduce the lead, if it all contains in the waters, and provide cleanup for the contaminated soil. And the major treatments are removal of the source of lead and the use of medications that bind lead so it can be eliminated from the body, known as an chelation therapy. So this chelation therapy is that chelators are some of the organic compounds which can make lead as a coordination compound in the environment and or also inside the human beings, living beings, and it can that coordination compounds have high solubility and it can be expelled from the body very easily. So that kind of therapy, which involves the binding of the organic compound with the lead containing compounds and form and coordination compounds, and these coordination compounds can be removed from the body, so that is called as an chile. Thank you.